Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, that was the legendary Potholers doing something a little differently for you this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon for me, but GMAE, wherever you are, good morning, afternoon, evening. My name is John Willett. The Potholers are trying desperately to get into the New Orleans Jazz Festival, and they've been trying for the last 15 years, and unfortunately, the festival keeps sending back their requests, along with the cassettes and 8-track tapes. They keep sending them, and for some reason, the Jazz Festival won't have anything to do with them, but they keep trying. So be on the lookout. Those Potholers will be in your town, very, very soon. How are you all today? You all look terrific. I hope you've had a good week. Again, my name is John Willett. This is Potholes and Cadillac Dreams. This is episode number 3. Holy cow. 3 episodes? Are you having fun? I know I am. I'm having a heck of a good time. Anyway, the reason I'm wearing this cap, I think you see it, that is Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs, as many of you know, is the former head coach of the Washington Redskins, then started his own racing team in NASCAR. This is an old style cap that I wore today because I was fortunate enough to have an all-access pass to the Daytona Speedway. By all access, that means, that's right, boys and girls, you get to go on the track. How cool is that? Anyway, I got to see the start-finish line. I took a roll around from about midway through the backstretch onto turn 3, turn 4. Yes, the infamous turn 3, turn 4, where we lost Dale Earnhardt. Got to see that. Got to see the incline. The incline is amazing. If you haven't been to Daytona Speedway and you don't realize how much of an incline it is, it's 18 degrees. Doesn't sound like much. Try walking up it or walking down it without falling and killing yourself. It is pretty cool. Spend some time in Victory Lane. Spend some time checking out the rest of the speedway, and it was really, really a wonderful experience. So we will have a YouTube video. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out where I could do a podcast on it because it's basically would be all description. So we're going to do a special video on the Daytona Speedway. This will be later on in the week. So look out for that. That's on my YouTube channel. And for those podcasters who are listening right this very moment, it is on the YouTube. It is Potholes and Cadillac Dreams, just like it is everywhere you get your podcasts. By the way, quick list. I wrote this down. Quick list on where we are. We are on Apple. We are on Spotify. We are on Google. We are on Podcast Index. We are on Overcast. We are on Amazon. We are on iHeartRadio. And we are on Buzzsprout, which of course is my host. So plus several others. Once you get on one of these or two of these, you end up being on lots of others. So if you're hearing me on a different platform, terrific. Let me know what it is so that I can include it in my reach out to you all during my intro. It's been a wonderful week. It's been a good week. It's beautiful here in the Daytona, Florida area. It has been. Hope it has been very, very nice where you are. If not, I hope you've had a good week anyway. We're going to kind of switch things up a tiny bit this week. I know I was going to mention cars as one of the 5 things that I was going to talk about. I just don't feel it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the pictures that I wanted to from my cute little 2018 Ford EcoSport, metallic blue in color, which I love dearly, and which, unfortunately, just before we moved here from Bar Harbor, I wrapped around a tree after hitting a patch of ice and totaled it. So I'm not really feeling like chatting about cars, although I've been kind of really unfortunate in terms of cars because I really don't know anything about them. I know you all out there, some of you know how to do this and do that and change points and all that other good stuff and, do your own oil and change your tires and all that mess. And I am the most mechanically inept person you will ever chat with in your entire life. And that's one of the reasons that cars have been such a bugaboo with me is when they say, the normal changing of tires takes about a half an hour. Well, it takes me about an hour and a half. So it's just one of those things. My dad, as you know, was an attorney, and the only thing he knew about cars is he would pull it into some place and say, fix what the challenge is, and then toss a bunch of cash at him. If they told him, oh, Mr. Willett, there's, the Sig and Fritz is next to the Lumpty-Doo, and we've got to move the thingamaboodle in with the thingamajig, and he'd go, okay, that's fine. And then he'd throw some money at him, not really knowing whether they were trying to take him for a ride or not. And that's the sad part. I know nothing about cars, so we'll skip it for this week. I've already talked about it as I can see in my little thing. I've already talked about it for 3 minutes, and that's about right. So maybe we'll hit it next week a little bit more. I'll try to get some pictures up so you can see, because I love that little car. I'm sure in everybody's life you have one car that you just go, I wish I kept that car. That car was so cool. I love that car. Well, that's my 2018 Ford EcoSport, even though it was a small little car. And it is not the Fleetwood Brougham that I dream about in my Potholes and Cadillac dreams. It still was a great car for me, and I really loved it. And hopefully next week I'll throw some pictures up there so you can see it, and you'll see what I mean. Well, you'll hopefully see what I mean if you just take out the part about the tree. When you get to the tree part, just kind of move that away and go, if that tree wasn't just buried inside the front of his car, boy, that'd be a good-looking automobile. Anyway, so we'll skip that. We can talk about schooling. School was real easy for me from grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and I know that you're saying, why, John, school is easy for everybody in kindergarten, ! As long as you don't do to your daddies and, don't do anything embarrassing and don't, eat the chalk and all that stuff. I understand that. But I mean, it was really easy. Even 7th and 8th grade, which gets to, like middle school, whatever, you're starting to have to kind of pay attention and do it. And I didn't have to. I mean, it was just easy. I don't know why. I, can't figure that out to save my life, but it did not prepare me for what happened in high school. Now, high school, friends and neighbors, high school was a different story. I went to Bishop Ireton High School in Alexandria, Virginia. And it was a college prep school, and of course it was run by Catholic Diocese. I can't remember. I think it was the St. Francis de Sales. I think the Oblates of St. Francis de Sales is what I seem to remember from that period. And they ran the school, and it was 50 shades of tough for me. One of the reasons was when I came in my freshman year, they started what was called a modular system. Each mod was 15 minutes long. So you had classes that were 2 mods. That would be a half hour, 3 mods, 45 minutes, 4 mods, 1 hour. And then you had free time. Now you were supposed to, according to what they hoped would be the end result, would be you would go and study and you would think deep thoughts and prepare yourself for college, because it was a college prep school. No. John did not do that. John did not do any of that. What John did is John hung out at the quadrangle, which was this little area. You got to imagine the school almost as a U. And then there's this area in the middle that was grassy and whatever. And all the nerds hung out there. I was a big nerd in high school. I didn't have hardly any friends in high school. So I'd hang out at the quadrangle. I would hang out in the cafeteria, because that was a big hangout place. And that's about it. I never volunteered for anything. I never was on the debate team. I wasn't on the newspaper. I wasn't on the yearbook. I didn't do any swimming, even though I'd been on the swim team before in my life. I had tried out for freshman football, but that didn't work out. I was among the first people cut. It was not good. And they had that modular system the whole time I was there. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, and I'm not sure which, fortunately, as a freshman, you wouldn't get as many mods free. So that was good. And then as you became a sophomore, then a junior, then a senior, you would get more and more mods. Well, that didn't work out for me at all, because any free time I had, I just pissed it away, to be quite brutally honest. I didn't study. I didn't apply myself. I didn't do any of that stuff. And when I went home, I didn't do much of that either, because, well, I didn't really have to. As I said, I I was a country club kid, and I just figured, life owed me a whole bunch, including, I guess, in my head, life should read my books and take my tests for me and do my homework and all that other stuff, and I wasn't supposed to do anything. I was just supposed to goof off. I did graduate high school. My grades were not that bad, actually. If you're doing a 4.0 per A++, I ended up with almost the same thing as I ended up in college, which was about a 2.8, 2.9, somewhere around there. But that's only because in junior and senior year, all of a sudden it was like, oh, you expect me to go to college? And if I don't go to college, I'm going to work in construction. Oh, well, I guess I need to concentrate on this. And then I applied myself a little bit and brought my grades up to the point where I was accepted at George Mason University. George Mason University is another story. George Mason University was not the George Mason University you all might know right now. The George Mason University now has ex-presidents on its faculty and senators and congressmen and ambassadors, and gets all kinds of people to guest lecture, and it's become one of the leading universities in the country, as well as being one of the leading universities in Virginia, besides William and Mary, for a good example, UVA, University of Virginia. But holy mackerel, that was just ugly. It was just ugly. I could have, as I mentioned in episode 2, I think I could have probably been right up there had I majored in what I wanted to major in, which was political science. I think it would have been an easy A for 4 years for me, because I just love politics. I did not love accounting. I did not like going to accounting classes. I did not like listening to accounting. I did not like listening to anything involving business, which is going to be a real challenge for me later on, boys and girls. So make sure that you're listening when I start telling you about all the businesses I started, where I could have really used some time there in the old classroom to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do, other than come up with big thoughts and try to turn them into some sort of business. So anyway, to make a long story short, I think I probably skipped more classes than I went to. My studying was normally confined to the last few days of a midterm or a final, where I would cram, and do whatever I did. I can again tell you I ended up with, it was about a 2.9. It was a little bit higher than high school, about 2.9, but it wasn't, amazing. It wasn't a 3.5, 3.6. It was middle of the road. And I don't like to pat myself on the back, but I think I'm a little smarter than middle of the road. So when people say, what in the world do you regret the most from your time, your previous life, or your or your childhood, or whatever, I think the thing that I regret the most is that I didn't apply myself. I did not set myself up for success. I really did set myself up for either mediocrity or failure, because I did not apply myself. I could have done much, much better in college. I could have done much, much better in high school, and I didn't do it. So I have nobody to blame but myself. Again, pothole, big pothole, huge pothole, pothole up to right about here, I think. Yes, I look down at the screen, right about there. That would be at the level of my nose. For those of you playing at home and listening on the radio or your earphones or biking or hiking or whatever, yeah, about my nose level. So tough to breathe. And I did that to myself, by myself, with myself. I have nobody else to blame but myself. And fortunately, I've been blessed with, as you can probably surmise, the gift of gab. So I was able to talk my way into various situations, and then from that point apply myself and accomplish things in various industries. Whereas in high school and college, I didn't establish the framework necessary for me to be a complete success. It's sad, but that's the deal. And if there is a lesson learned, boys and girls, if you're all writing this down, lessons learned, we chatted about that earlier. Lesson learned is apply yourself. A, study something you love. Study something you want to learn about. But B, apply yourself. Give it your best shot always. Even if you're tired, even if you've had a tough day, even if you went out drinking the night before with all your frat buddies and you're just hungover as hell and oh my God, you don't want to go to this class, go to it. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be very, very happy down the road when you're my age and you do not have to work 40 hours for a living and you are successful and you have money in the bank and you can relax and take it easy and think upon a life well lived rather than a life partially wasted. That was that was heavy. Hope y'all caught that. That was pretty good. That was right off the top of my head. Pretty good. Anyway, that's school. So we'll chat about school again, I'm sure. Religion's an interesting thing to talk about. Now, we're not going to talk about esoteric stuff about, what you believe, don't believe, whatever. I've said that I believe that there is an almighty. I believe that there is something out there that's far bigger than all of us that is kind of, for lack of a better term, overseeing things. And because stuff couldn't run as well as it does, even though a lot of people think it doesn't run that well, but still, it's pretty amazing to me that things occur the way they occur, things end up being the way they are. There seems to always be a hand in something. So that we're not talking about. You know my position there. I hope you believe in something. If you don't, I understand. That's your opinion and that's cool and bless your heart. And, one day we may have someone here who entirely disagrees with me and then we'll have a discussion and see what y'all think. But anyway, my deal is that I've belonged to all kinds of religions. As you know, I said I was a lapsed Catholic, which means that I started in the Catholic Church. I was in Catholic grade school. I was in Catholic high school. So I was in Catholic schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I used to be an altar boy. Used to go to Mass every Sunday. Used to go to Mass almost every day because I was an altar boy. I had the 6:30 or the 8 o'clock Mass, so I would be there all the time. I did funerals. I did weddings. I did all kinds of stuff. But I grew away from that because of one thing or another, and it's just one of those things that I think it was the rigidity of the Catholic Church and the way that they did things and the way that they presented things. I think that's what it was. It was very, very rigid. It was very dogmatic. It was very... So I moved away from the Catholic Church, and I have a little list here. At one point or another, so apologize for those of you watching in the YouTube. I apologize for my looking down, but for those of you listening, forget it. I'm not looking down. It's just a figment of your imagination. Okay? Good. So I've been Catholic, Episcopalian, Lutheran, Buddhist, Southern Baptist, and Congregational. That's quite the list for someone 67 years old. Not Jewish, because although my wife seems to think that I might have been born Jewish, one of my parents being Jewish, but I'm tending to doubt that since they went through Catholic Charities to get me adopted, so I don't think that happened. But anyway, the one that's really interesting there is Buddhist, because I became Buddhist for all of 3 weeks because I was chasing some girl who interrupted me in a parking lot and started talking about how great Buddhism was, and I really wasn't interested in Buddhism other than the fact that I was interested in her. She wasn't wearing much. What she was wearing certainly was appealing to her and was appealing to me looking at her. So I went to some Buddhist things and learned one phrase and one phrase only. It was Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I don't know what that means. If you do, let me know at johnwillett1218@gmail.com. Again, johnwillett1218@gmail.com. I don't know what that means, but that's the only thing I memorized. And then, of course, when it became fairly obvious that this was her gig and that she tried to lure, love that word, tried to lure young boys like me to a life of Buddhism based solely on the fact that she was a hot, very hot woman and very flirtatious, and that would stop the moment that you went to either the first or the second meeting, and then it was like, I got other fish to fry. So I realized that and decided, I don't think I need to be a Buddhist that badly, because it was all Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and then there was a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm not really good at memorization, so that went by the wayside. But that's the one interesting one. There have been others, as I said, others, mostly because of women I've dated, specifically Lutheran, Baptist, Southern Baptist, twice. Congregational is my wife. My wife, Doreen, is part of the Congregational Church in Bar Harbor, Maine. Still is. We still get information from them, and we love them, and we think they're great. So it's been interesting, my religion roller coaster, and unfortunately, I don't think I really found what it is. I guess it's YouTube. YouTube. Isn't that ridiculous? YouTube. There we go. YouTube is my channel. YouTube is the rock people. The rock people, the rock stars, the rock group. There we go. Okay, now we're on the same page. YouTube. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. At age 67, I should probably work on that. But at this point, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, and don't know whether I ever will, other than the fact that, when my cat purrs, it melts me, and my cat's purr had to come from somewhere, and there had to be some sort of power that allowed cats to purr that way to make me feel the way I feel. So one of those things that I would bring up to an agnostic or someone who really didn't believe in whatever, because there are certain things in this life that there's got to be another power. Has to be. Okay, we've covered religion. Where are we? We're at, physicality. I have been blessed with several things. First of all, head of hair, because at 67, you're not supposed to have a head of hair. None of my friends here in Latitude Margaritaville got heads of hair like I do. You've seen it, but I got my cap on. It's a really cool cap. This cap, by the way, is from 2000, I think 2000, yeah, because Tony Stewart's, there we go. Tony Stewart's on one side, and he's no longer in racing. He's got his own racing team, and I can't remember who the other guy is, but I'm sure you all do. There's somebody out there who's a NASCAR fanatic, and if you go back to 2000, 2001, he drove the number 18, if you can see it. That's an 18 right there. There you go. On the other side, that's an 18 right there. So if you can remember who drove the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, that's who the other person is. So this cap goes back to 2000, and I actually have two tickets in it. One for 2000, one for 2001, which was Dover, Delaware, the Miracle Mile. Miracle Mile? I think it's called the Miracle Mile. And it was the MBNA 400 that I saw twice, which was kind of cool. My challenge with NASCAR being there is for the first 20 laps, you're pretty good. After that, you have no clue unless you're watching the board. And for the whole rest of the race, that was me hitting my microphone, by the way. For the whole rest of the race, you have no clue until the last 20 laps or so. And then you kind of figure out what's going on. But it was okay. I mean, it was fun. They tailgate like crazy. If you are NASCAR fans, you know, you all tailgate like crazy. There are lots of you out there. So, it's an old cap, but it's fun, and it's okay. Anyway, we've digressed. So we go to physicality. I've been very fortunate. I did have major surgery on this eye, which is why my eyes look a little bit different, if you can see them. There we go. How's that? If I'm not staring at myself and I'm looking at the camera, again, for you podcasters, I'm not looking at any camera. Just all podcast. So the one eye is a little bit different than the other, and the reason is I had a torn retina and went through about $140,000 worth of surgery on my left eye so that I could see. I've also had some cataract surgery on my eyes. I've had several colonoscopies, which is something us old guys got to have. And the big one, obviously, is when I had open heart surgery on July 12, 2022. I had a bad aortic valve, which I was told was probably from birth. I had 2 flaps on my valve that actually fused together. So that might have happened during my birth, and then I just had it. I also had an aneurysm above my aortic valve, which could have gone at any moment, which means, again, there might be someone looking out over me. So they got rid of the aortic valve, put in a new one. They got rid of my aneurysm and then fixed some other stuff. So that was my big challenge. Then I'm going to try to word this very carefully because I don't know. Some of you might be at dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever. I had too much medication for pain, which unfortunately backed up the system to the point where I had to go back to the hospital and have it unbacked up. Okay? I think we did that pretty well. The procedure that they used was what I call the French resistance procedure, because if for example, the Germans had figured this system out, this procedure out, and had grabbed any French resistance person and had subjected them to this, I believe the French resistance hero would have spilled his guts for everything. He would have told the Germans where the guns were, where the ammunition was, where the bombs were, where his other people were living, how many members of their family there were, would have ratted out his mother, his father, his grandmother, his grandfather, everybody. Nothing would have been sacred. That's all I'm going to say. But it wasn't good. It was no good. Yeah, that's something I would avoid, boys and girls, friends and neighbors. I would avoid that at all costs, if you can. So anyway, I've had that done to me. So I'm going to digress again for half a second, because I don't know whether you've ever had this happen to you, but because I've just told you, basically, I mean, there's more stuff that's wrong with me, but we can cover that in a later podcast. But I have a friend, my closest friend, as a matter of fact, who isn't telling me nearly as much as I'm telling you all, and I don't really know any of you all. I'm hearing from sources, and I'm sure you have friends like this. You probably have friends, relatives, whatever, where they keep everything to themselves, and, I don't need to tell anybody, and I don't need anybody to worry about me, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I've got a friend of mine who, from what I understand, is having some challenges and isn't confiding in me, and I believe I'm his best friend. I know he's mine for 48 years. 48 years, which is a lot older than a lot of you all are. And it bothers me. So I'm hoping that when he sees this episode, that he will realize that he can share this stuff with me, and that I will be there for him, because he's always been there for me. And I know that's a little heavy, and normally I try to keep things light and airy, but it's something that concerns me. And going through the stuff I've gone through, I was very fortunate in that I always had people to confide in, people who loved me, people who took care of me, people who watched over me, people who prayed about me, people who did all kinds of things for me. And I just want to let him know that I'm there for him whenever he would need me to be there. So that's my physicality portion of this fun broadcast. I was going to talk to you all about sports, but sports is a pretty big topic for me. Suffice to say, I did mention that I was going to set up the story. I will tell you that the story occurred on November 5th, 2006. If any of you all are Redskin fans, that was the day that the Cowboys came to town to play the Redskins at FedEx Field. And that's where the story begins. And it ends poorly. As you could imagine, with a guy who's doing a podcast called Potholes and Cadillac Dreams. There are no Cadillac Dreams in this story. Oh, no. It's all potholes. Big, fat, giant potholes, one after the other. Not good. So anyway, we have come to the 30-minute mark. As I told you guys, I want to make sure that I'm done in approximately 30 minutes, so you all are up to speed. Just another quick couple of things. First of all, again, Demi Bennett. Demi Bennett. I would I would love to meet Demi Bennett. I would love to interview Demi Bennett. I think, and you're now getting an idea, whereas where I kind of took all kinds of time away from what I should have been doing, which was studying, I believe that Miss Bennett took that same time and applied it over and over to what she was doing to make her as successful as she is. Nice change, nice correlation there. I think that would be fun to talk to her. So Demi Bennett, if you know her, I would love to chat with her. I mentioned Christy Salters Martin. I've sent episode number 2 to her. If you can, Deal with the Devil is on Netflix. That is her documentary. It is well worth you looking at. It is well worth you getting her autobiography. She's a very, very great storyteller. And if you can, get on YouTube, besides watching these fabulous videos, get on YouTube and check her out. She boxed under the name Christy Martin. She's got an amazing story, and I would love to have her on as well. I do not have any sort of plan for episode number 4, but what I will do is I will get the word out, and what I might do is when I put out the tape concerning the Daytona Speedway, I might announce then what we're going to cover, or I might just surprise you guys and just come up with something for next Friday. So, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please subscribe and like too. If you can do both, that'd really be cool. We're out there on Twitter. We're out there on Facebook. We're trying to get out there on Instagram. We're out there on LinkedIn because we talk about business. We're trying to get out there as much as we possibly can, but you know, we're still new. We're still new and we're still struggling, but we're going to get out there for you. Thanks again for participating. I will definitely have a music review next week of the music that I listen to. In the meantime, you all have a great week. Have a great weekend. I look forward to chatting with you next week. Have a good one. Bye.